Thank you very much. Thank you, Secretary, for being here. On March 28th of 2018, the New York Times described how HUD has rolled back enforcement actions aimed at reversing racial and ethnic discrimination in federally subsidized housing projects during your tenure. And in particular, the article highlights an investigation opened in 2016 into claims that Facebook encouraged discriminatory practices by allowing advertisers to exclude certain ethnic groups from viewing ads for housing sales and rentals. The article then goes on to describe how your aides ordered the Office of Enforcement to halt its investigation, which was then followed by a letter from Assistant Secretary Farias terminating the Facebook investigation without explanation. And despite the decision not to investigate these claims, a recent investigation released in November of 2017 found that Facebook continues this practice to this day. Were you involved personally in the decision to terminate the Facebook investigation?
I gave, and I give all of my people the degree of independence that they need, but I will tell you that...
So whose decision was this?
I think we jointly agreed that that was an appropriate thing to do at that time.
What does that mean? But you have a hierarchy, right? And there are certain authorities and certain assistant secretaries and professional staff. Was this your decision? Was this the GC?
Well, the secretary is responsible for all decisions, regardless of who makes them. But let me...
But who made the decision?
The decision was made at a level other than myself, but I gave permission for the decision to be...
And what level is that?
The assistant secretary.
Okay, and on what basis?
Well, on the basis that some of the suits that were being pursued, we didn't really have time to study them, so we wanted to really pull them back and have a chance to study them. And we have actually reopened the Facebook case after having an opportunity to study it.
The investigation is open again?
It is.
Is this the first we're hearing about it?
It may well be.
Okay. Well, I think the committee, both this committee on appropriations for HUD as well as the banking committee is going to want to understand where you are in this investigation and what you plan to do, because that was my whole line of questioning is where is the paper trail, who is making decisions and on what basis. But I'm happy to see, I'm happy to find out that the investigation has been reopened.
We were very concerned when we began to uncover the facts.
Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, HUD working with lenders has had success supporting multifamily development with the very strong credit performance and some of the lowest delinquency rates in the industry. How do you see HUD's role in the multifamily mortgage market to help increase the supply of affordable and workforce rental housing?
Well, the role of FHA obviously is a key role in terms of affordability and helping people to realize the American dream. You know, the FHA really acts more like an accordion. When credit is relatively easy, then we tend to shrink. When credit is very difficult, we tend to expand. And obviously, we tend to focus more on first-time, home buyers and minorities and people who have been disadvantaged in the past.
My final question for you has to do with the recent executive order calling for significant reforms to welfare programs. And I'm going to try not to, because we only have 53 seconds remaining, not to get into a kind of ideological conversation about these programs, because here you are, Secretary of HUD, here we are talking about funding for HUD, so we've already kind of stipulated that we think the government ought to be in the role of at least assisting people to find housing. But I want to quote for you one part of the executive order which said that many federal programs perpetuated poverty and weakened family bonds and traps many recipients, especially children in poverty. Do you have data? Does the department have data to back up that assertion?
We will be happy to make that data available to you and your staff, absolutely.
Do you have any of that data off the top of your head? If this is administration policy, it seems to me that there should be some something behind it. I understand the sort of difference between the parties as it relates to the social safety net. But
me
that's
give
a
you an
pretty
example.
strong statement, and I don't want an anecdote. I want rigorous analysis that shows that these programs actually trap people and weaken family bonds, because that is not it's not my understanding of the data.
Let me give you a very good example of that. Because the rent structure goes up when a person is added to the household, like a spouse or another contributing adult, it disincentivizes family unity. That's one example.
Okay, that's actually not at all unreasonable. I'm not sure that's what's contained in the executive order. I'm not sure that's the thrust of the executive order, but if that's how it's going to be interpreted to make sure that we don't provide perverse disincentives for family unity, we can work together on that.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay.